We want also to look at this editorial cartoon today in the People Daily. This is Musalia Mudavadi, and you can see everyone is proffering their hand, holding their heart right now. Is Mudavadi now the person to look for as far as 2022 is concerned? So this politics has begun, and we can see that is Orange, that is Ruto. Here is what Ruto had to say, and of course what Mudavadi gave us a rejoinder. Just listen in.
Ya kwamba Omwami Musalia aje aungane na timu hii, tuende pamoja na timu ya Karanga na timu ya kina Washali na hii timu tuunde serikali.
Hawa wametuwekea mzigo ya madeni, alafu anasema niende huko. Ruto and Jubilee are the problem. Hao ndio wametuletea shida. Sasa wanasema I go and become part of the problem. No, ANC is going to provide the solution.
And also People Daily is holding this Mudavadi, why can't work with Ruto? Back you? No way. NC leader claims DP is one of the chief architects of the economic crisis subjecting country to huge foreign debt. That is in today's People Daily. Let's just begin with Herman Manyora on this as well, because you can see this is also contributing to actually fomenting, the political tension that we have in the country so far. And we can peg this as well with what is happening with Kibra. And right now that the nominations have been done, and we are eagerly awaiting to see what will be happening in November. Let's go with you.
Yeah. For Kibra, let's congratulate Imran, whatever it's called. I finally wouldn't have supported him because of standing by as his brother went up in flames. But since ODM has chosen him, let's wish him the best. I hope what I say doesn't stand in the way. Now,
political statement.
Yeah, and for Mudavadi, I think that is his style. It leads people to think he's there for grabs. And there are those who believe that Mudavadi should fight his wars in such a way he doesn't look like somebody who will always be there to deputize other people, or then sends this image of a person waiting to be given. I think he must play his politics in such a way that kind of situation doesn't obtain all the time. That you see, you are there and we want to bring you on board as Ruto. Oh, Raila also wants him on board. But none of them is saying they want him to be the president. So if I were Mudavadi reacting, I would have told Ruto, well, good, I will join you. But not as your deputy, because really, all things considered, all factors considered, then you'll come and perhaps I'll consider you for deputy. And although the constitution does bar him. But that is how he has played his politics, Musalia Mudavadi. You see, everybody sees him first as a person you can always bring on board as some player in your team, not necessarily the captain. And also, it leads to people having this notion that the Luhya are people who are undecided. They are the people up for grabs. And I don't think it's a good picture, being a person who comes from Western. I think we need our politicians. I challenge Mudavadi, come out strongly in Kenyan politics so that this kind of image, this kind of shame to the community is not there. I think, if we play our politics the way we play, where a tribe is important or ethnic community is important, we have the numbers. It should be us inviting smaller groupings to join us as we form government. So I want to advise him to find a way of playing his politics so that people don't always view him in that manner.
I have two things to say. First, I think the Luhya nation is the most democratic nation in this republic since independence.
The Luhya nation?
Yeah, they're the most democratic nation in this republic. Secondly, I think the politics of either Ruto or Raila or whoever inviting Mudavadi to join them in there is wrong. That's what I've been talking about. That what we need now is for all of us as Kenya and the leaders, to agree on a formula of forming a government which is inclusive. So this kind of thing does not happen. I would appeal. In fact, I'd like to have lunch with Mudavadi. In this regard, Mudavadi's style of politics, he is the person who should lead the struggle for parliamentary democracy. Where, unlike what my friend Professor Manyara is saying, you don't sit and say, Loya, we are here, who will join us so that we form government. No, he should not play the kind of game Ruto is playing. He said, here we are as Kenyans. How can we form a government which is inclusive for all of us so that we can build this nation, so that we can go to the East African table as one unit speaking one voice. We don't go to the East African table and then the next day somebody calls, sneaks to Museveni. I said, you know me, I didn't agree with that. I think I support your stand. That will not advance our cause as Kenyans. So at this point in time, we should not be engaging in this kind of politics, or who is joining, who is rejoining who. We should ask, okay, the BBI is coming with its proposals. Ugatuzi is coming with its proposals. The other one, Punguza Misigo.
Yes.
Punguza Misigo is coming with his proposal. Let us put this proposal on the table to the people of Kenya and say, what is contained in each proposal that is useful for building a strong, united, democratic state in a strong, united, national democratic front? I was a strong proponent of a united national democratic front when we formed Ford originally. In fact, Ford was a broad, united democratic front of the opposition, which was ready to welcome KANU if KANU could run away from its one-party mentality at that point in time. Indeed, as soon as Ford was formed, a lot of people had abandoned KANU and came to Ford because of that strong, united democratic front. But then the devil of ethnicity came in again and divided Ford. And we have never recovered from that. Several years later, almost 2 decades later, we should look back and say, where did the rain begins to beat us? And why must we continue this trajectory that every time we're going to elections, somebody is inviting who, somebody is inviting who, on the basis of ethnic fronts? And those ethnic fronts don't work because as soon as they get into government, they break down again. And this is what has happened in Jubilee. Why continue to perform the same mistake year in, year out, and yet our nation is not developing? One of the reasons why China is developing is that after Mao, they realized that this idea of excluding capitalists from developing this nation is not working. That's why they invented something called socialism with Chinese characteristics. Socialism which will welcome capitalism, because capitalism is useful for us. Let us not be chauvinistic. It's only capitalism that will lead us to industrialization. But we can't invite capitalism with Western characteristics of not recognizing the smallest man in the village is important for governing the nation. So that the party structure at the village must be had when the Politburo is meeting in Beijing. So these things are there, and I don't think I'm going to join the game of saying, let us now argue, where is Mudavadi going? To this group or that group? No, let's say, where is everybody going? All of us, where are we going? So this constitutional review should help us find how do we establish a broad national democratic front when we form government for building a national democratic and developmental state. That is my submission.
Thank you. Let's say from
let me say, you know, there is a third liberation needed. The first liberation was from colonization and so on. And then when we came in, we found we were not democratic. We've tried to improve that. And Professor Nyong'o and the team were in the Young Turks that said now we must have a democracy, we must change Section 2A. I think we did that. And now we have multi-party. The third liberation that is needed solely is the liberation to unite Kenya. We can't go back and keep harping on tribes, people organizing themselves in tribal groups, and then calling each other, now you come, we have this thing, we as a tribe, we have it, then when you join us, you may get something small. Now that is where we as leaders now, I go back to what I said earlier, are we leading the people or are we following the people? Why do I ask that? Because I feel that we as leaders are looking at easy ways of passionately arousing people's emotions and All living things or animals tend to be in groups and want group survival. And we know that is what is popular with the people. We are being populist. And instead of saying we are going to have one country, we are going to have tribes are not going to matter anymore, and then you move into the direction Professor is saying. So that when you say join us, it is nobody knows what you are joining us to do. If you say this is our party, Ruto says, okay, this is ours, and we come and join us, and then we will form a government. People are perhaps assuming that the Kenyans know what he wants to do when he has formed the government. In my view, that is the first thing that should have been asked. Or if you say it is the Raila side to come and join us, then you say, okay, what is there that is good for Kenya? How we are going to change? What are we joining? Not joining that. So we are deliberately not analyzing what each group stands for, so that then people can join. We are just saying we are going to get power. There's this assumption that when you have gotten the power, the rest will be given unto you. I don't think history has proved that. You must come to power with clear agenda. So I think whether Musalia Mudavadi, I wish he would act then come out and say, for me, these are the conditions I want for Kenyans, and if you stand for this, I will join you.
I think Deng Xiaoping, who succeeded Mao after the Tiananmen Square, said that it doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white as long as it catches the mice. And you can see the challenge with the Chinese way of government, because the Washington Consensus, about 27 countries have succeeded in being developed, but it is not the only way, and that is the problem of preoccupation of the Western democracies. Because then democracy, the way it has been, interpreted in Africa, I call it indemocratic. It's in between there, and it has not really yielded the results. In fact, it has made us to be more tribal, and also it speaks to the idea of the fact that we don't have political parties that are ideologies, and also, of course, the challenge of China, that what is really a socialist characteristic, because the Communist Party's way of governance has not been experimented out of Beijing. It needs to go out there and find residents in other jurisdictions as to occasion an alternative that would be plausible. But let me also say this. I think I must answer the question that you asked about. Because we are analyzing Mudavadi. Mudavadi and Ruto have been at war, even when we were with them in ODM. Because Ruto feared that Mudavadi was a preferred candidate. In fact, when we elected Raila in 2007, I remember Professor Nyong'o holding my hand that time. When Raila stood there, he declared Mudavadi as his vice president. And later on, when Ruto made a lot of noise and Mudavadi was made the deputy party leader, a position had to be hived off that for him to become, also a co-party leader, deputy party leader. But he also felt he should have been the deputy prime minister. Why Ruto is wooing Mudavadi is because Mudavadi has played the politics of safe hands. He looks harmless. He looks like he's a go-to person. And now with the census results, last census results, and allow me to speak the politics as it is, real politics in Kenya. Last elections, Kikuyus were 6.6 million. The Luyas were 5.3. The gap was 1.3 million. And the Luyas are known, and Professor Manyora, as the next governor for Vihiga, is here, are known to give birth to a lot of children. They may have already breached the gap. We'll see the results. Well, I'm just declaring for himself because I can see his posture. So that then, maybe also Mudavadi looks very attractive, but also a force to reckon with. If at all the Luyas were to be declared to be the most populous in this current census, and also he is the greatest threat to anybody. He could be the alternative between Raila and Ruto, because those two alliances, they are very much of the same character. And if they are trying to outfox each other, if one of the sides were to realize that we can't get it, maybe Mudavadi can be an alternative. So Ruto is very smart, because he's playing the politics of analyzing, now that he has about over 80% of the Mount Kenya region, and that's a fact, by the way.
According to who?
No, it's to the ground.
We can't say a fact.
To the ground.
I live there. I live there. When you tell me facts,
I walk there, I sleep there.
Do we have any baseline survey that
if you are to combine
I need to know there, where is the empirical evidence for this? Because I say so. You say so.
Is there,
I've never seen it according to
I will invite you to come with me one weekend, and you'll also come back saying the same. Now, if you combine Kikuyu and the Kalenjin and Luya votes, the game shot. Because even in Kibra, majority of the voters are Luya Nation. And that is why you found ANC's Mudavadi chose Owalo, who knows ODM very well. He was the one running the party. And now ODM has also chosen Imran Bernard Otieno. If there was a Luya candidate, then it would have been extremely difficult. But now because the game has still gone back to where it was, maybe ODM has an upper hand as at now. Though the question that Professor Manyora was asking about the issue of cremation and burying will be a big factor in terms of culture. But be that as it may, political ideologies will only work in Kenya if we are able to supersede these tribal inclinations, because it's very easy to arouse the passions of nativity, the Baal, and tell people that, see, you are like me, we speak the same language. But how then do we do it? I still hold the view, and this is my final submission on this issue, I hold the view that if we are to de-risk our politics by expanding the executive and making people see that they can see people who are like them in the equation, in terms of the 5 major groupings that would help. And Ruto was trying to disrupt this equation by having one of the people who would have otherwise been thought to be part of the juggernaut around and Raila and Uhuru.
Are we getting an opportunity?
Yes, please.
Yes, I think the Luya community, I think right now, they actually have almost made their decision where they want to go. I think Mudavadi will be left alone. And he has been left alone before with a small number there, which is okay. Because in every community there is, except maybe for the Nyanza people and the Mount Kenya, normally they would vote as a bloc. But I think right now, unless people are not following politics, the Luya community has shifted. And they have shifted. He wants a governor, he doesn't know. I think he should go and do some homework. But they have shifted to the deputy president. Now, on the question of, there is something that people are discussing. And, actually Nyikar was in Kierweke. Sometimes back, he was in that team and he realized this is not my kind of stuff. And yes, and quickly exited. and rightly so.
Yes, put the spotlight on him.
Rightly so. He was there. He went 2-3 times and he realized, these people, the gospel they are preaching is not okay. And that's what...
this is after the handshake?
No, just the other day he came to Muranga. I went to somewhere in Kiambu. And so the handshake was last year. We have moved from handshake to BBI, now we are moving to referendum. And I said on this table that the handshake is one of the biggest political strategy between two people. And of course now from there it is supposed to move to other people. I think it is still on its way. What I want to say here is that, democracy in this country, by the constitutional structure that we have, is governed by the vote, the ballot. And with the question of winner takes it all, it has always been there. Are we going to discuss about removing winner takes it all from the top positions? What will happen to the governor position? What will happen to the MP's question? I think people are preaching a confused issue here. We need to change attitude, all of us. That whether it is your person who is in position, whether it is the other person, that person must see the country as Kenya, not as a small nation of where they come from. And I think it is really a mentality and attitude issue here. So I do not support this business of expanding the executive to burden the Kenyan with the 5 positions at top level, coming with offices, with a stream of cars, staff, what personnel, in the name of bringing inclusivity, bringing people. You know what? So you bring 5 communities. What about 40 other communities? I think that will not work. We are trying too many things in this country. Our constitution is it is rated as one of the most progressive. And that's a fact. It has beautiful things in there. We just needed to give it time and let some of these, also we have some dynasties, when some of these things are cleared out of the way by the people. Like Honorable Raila Odinga said, he was a president for the people. I think the people are still going to speak at one time or the other and produce one person who will then be seen to work for them. And I think that time is coming. And that's when Kenya will be Kenya. You know, because we can never divorce the politics of competition. But competition should not be hatred, shouldn't be ethnicity, shouldn't be now violence after elections. And I support mechanisms of ensuring that our elections are clean, clear, and acceptable to people in terms of the transparency. And that really would be the score. So that everybody feels like
Could you ask?
One question.
One question, please. To
all of us.
To all of us.
Debal, you said that when we do these things, we should look at empirical data.
Yes.
Empirical data shows that since independence, it is the presidential elections that cause ethnic tension and violence in this country. Elections of councillors or of MCAs or of governors don't do that. Therefore, if we know empirically that one particular election cannot lead us to national unity, why do we stick to it? At least it's right. There are things in the Constitution which are good. Devolution, for example, is very progressive. Others help this nation. The Bill of Rights that we have now is much better than the one we had during the one-party state. So we don't need to change that. But one thing that causes problems for national unity, for what I call a national democratic front, to build a national democratic and developmental state, is the presidency. That's a fact, proven by empirical experience. So if that is so, why don't we, as scientists said, where, for example, when a doctor is examining you, you're suffering what? The doctor examines you and said, here is the problem, it is the liver. The heart is okay, the lungs are okay, but let's deal with the liver and sort it. Then the whole body will be fine. Here is a case where we have one particular experience in this nation since independence. Like if Kenya had stuck to a parliamentary system at independence and Kenyatta had not become an executive president, the conflict within Kenya would not have arisen. It wouldn't. It would have gone like Botswana or things like those, where you have inclusivity in politics. I'm not saying that inclusivity must mean so many deputy presidents. It's because we are stuck with the idea of a president. That's when you think that if you have inclusivity, you must split it into all this. No. The whole idea of this debate that we are having now for constitution reform is that, well, we have spotted the problem. Let's everybody come to the table and say, how would we solve this? How would we do surgery on the liver?
Will you take a referendum to actually solve this particular problem?
Definitely, because the present constitution says so.
Right.
Let me attempt to answer.
No, let's say from Haman will come to you. Okay. I think it's fair we give him time.
I think instead of my own thoughts, let me just react to what people have said, starting with Professor Nyang' Nyong'o, governor. You see, it may be true that the presidency is what causes us a problem, not MPs, not councillors, MCAs, senators, and the rest. That is quite true, but it's a mere observation. It is not that if you remove the presidency, you have removed the problem. The problem with the presidency is because in the initial years of independence, those in power, and we have Kenyatta in mind, made it difficult by using state power for there to be competition. And that's was the problem at that time. Later on, through some gerrymandering in law, Jonjo and Moi declared Kenya almost, not almost, a one-party state. I remember how my friend Kingarui, the first African registrar, was trembling when Jaramogi took to him papers to register a political party when Kenya was still a one-party state by law. So that is where the problem is. Then there followed a period when there was a little rigging. After that, and for the past 3 or 4 elections, I think 3 elections, it has not been that there's a problem with the presidency or the voting itself. It is always accepting to move the next level. We have now voted, so and so has won. Can we move to the level where we can get the next person to take over power? You know, from 2007, the problem has not been anything else. That's so and so has now won. Can we give him the reins of power? That's where the problem is. So I don't think removing the presidency. No, but so long as there's a center of power, whether that power be the prime minister or whatever, unless we sort out our electoral problems, we should not have solved it. The problem is the electoral process, and I've gone through the history.
But electoral problems is just one cog in, you know, in this
exactly,
particular many, you know, moving components that we have in this, you know, reform that we're trying to seek.
The point I'm trying to make is this, that initially, crude methods were used to make sure there was no competition for presidency. Then there was some rigging. Then we moved to the next level, where once somebody has won, it is difficult for us to move to give him power.
But why do we fear that?
So, because
why?
Because of the power associated with it, definitely.
And the winner take all thing, because
but you
we are left out.
The answer, to answer your question, Professor Nyang, I'm saying this. So long as there will be some center of power, there will still be a problem. I think Kenya's problem that has led to disturbances and whatever you can call even almost war, has been the problem with the electoral process itself. Has it been seen to be fair? The answer is no. If it had been fair, the loser perhaps would have accepted. Right. But allow me to make one observation.
Could we hear from
no, just one more. Yes. Just one more.
Briefly?
Because Ali said that the lawyers have shifted, and I'm sitting here. And people will ask me when I go home, because I'm going home. Now, I must say this.
All of you keeping silent, Prof.
I must say this. You see, yes. I must say this. It's like a cow we have slaughtered. And Alice is saying the lawyers should be content Namatumbo. But we want the good part of the meat. We want that the president itself. We don't want Matumbo. You see.
So the professor becomes the spokesperson of the lawyer.
So as soon as somebody becomes president, I'm minister in charge of interior and coordination of national business.
All right. Just a moment. You need to react to what Alice said, that also the tectonic plates have shifted in the western region. That have shifted.
That's what I'm saying. And even Central, I wanted to say it is true, and I made the observation here that about 80%.
No.
Casual observation.
Yes. Next time I need. We need a poll.
I think an overwhelming majority.
It's good to accept the reality of the ground.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just need empirical evidence. I mean, that's the fact that we deal with journalism. Just a moment. Just a moment. Let's say from
you know, the bigger picture, all of us here say and agree on one thing, and then decline to address it. It is the power, the center of power. Let me tell you, the ordinary person is really not concerned with the center of power as such, per se. How does the center of power make my life better? Because what we are saying, people, whoever is in power, if you actually will do the things that improve my life, and that's what Professor is saying, inclusivity. And inclusivity is not just holding positions. Inclusivity is, will I get easy education, transport easy, I can get food, my kids can go to school, NMCA can be treated. So that center of power, what we have made people believe, I'm wondering whether we're leaders, that center of power is the presidency that he was talking about, that therefore make people unhappy and people fight. Because we have said, if your tribe is in the center of power, then you have hope that you will then benefit. What we need to do as leaders is say it does not matter where the center of power is. You as a Kenyan, you will get what you want. But what we are doing here, we are analyzing this thing as political analysts. Political analysts should behave different, should be different from leaders. Political analysts analyze it as it is, the factor as they are. Leaders should seek to change those factors if those factors are the ones that are causing a problem.
Political analysts will also use scientific, method to actually, come up or verify some of the statements they say.
Yeah,
like
agree. They use the factors. What leaders are supposed to do are to change those factors. Like if we know the big thing still is the center of power and tribalism and exclusion.
All right. we need to bring it.
No, I'll finish. I was mentioned that I was in Keleweka and what and not. I've not moved. My position is still very clear. That wherever we are fighting, we must look at the world.
You've not moved. What do you mean?
Now,
still in Keleweka.
She was saying I've moved. I've not moved my view in the whole politics of Kenya. Because, for example, if I talk about BBI, let me tell you, there are three things I like in BBI. One, it is addressing the issue of tribalism. Two, is talking about corruption. Three, it is saying the electoral process. Now, in my view, Those are the main things that we address. Will address the issue of the center of power.
All right,
so if a
thank you.
group,
Just
if
a
a
moment.
group is for that, I will support that.
So, just a moment. So the deputy president is he supporting the BBI?
I think the ball.
No, I'm asking the question. Is he supporting the BBI?
Before you come to that, allow me to express my opinion on this one. This idea, this preoccupation of dispersion of power, is something that also we must also look at it critically. If you look at, for example, at this jurisdiction like China, you have one leader. But the leadership's collegiate. If you look at the Politburo, they have 7 of them, then there are 25, and they move all the way down to the 90 million members of the CPC party. But one of the things that I really want to say, even when you talk about the issue of democracy, if you do not have a situation where a leader, that one leader has got an ideology.
Thank you.
No, let me express, please, because you've given other people airtime. Let me also talk. If they don't have ideology and they do not have the vision to lead the people,
you remember it came late as well.
It becomes an issue. No, but this is not about lateness. It's about also being here. The question is, you cannot have somebody who just occupies power for the sake of it, because power has an essence of corrupting absolutely. And we may also need to look at the process through which then somebody becomes a leader. Because you see, I want to postulate here that if Kibaki had not been in power, out of power after being my finance minister and health minister, vice president for 10 years, and then later on in the political cold for 10 years as a leader of official position, maybe he would not have been as visionary as he was.
Right. Thank you.
So I think it is important to do so, but also the issue of parliamentary system. It is good if at all we go the party list way.
Thank you.
However,
we need to wind up.
Constituencies, as long as they're not equal.
Thank you.
Where you have Roiro, which are 160,000 voters, and other people with 15,000 people, it cannot work parliamentary.
All right. So you see that? No, just a moment. You see the reason why I'm reserving this particular debate of a parliamentary is because of this particular also announcement that we have here. Next week we shall dedicate our time to actually be looking at this book by Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. This is they'll have a public lecture, official book launch, and official book launch. This will be at the University of Nairobi. This will be on Tuesday, the 24th. And that is at Chandera Center for Performing Arts at the University of Nairobi. Also, you'll meet the Young Turks as well. And each of you will get a soft copy of this book so that at least we can slice and dice. And, the arguments that you're putting forth here, then we can have, a good time next week to discuss.
We want a hard copy with this.
They will be autographed here on Monday.
Prof, even
So
me
we
need a
will-
hard copy.
we'll
I
attend.
don't do well with soft copies.
So soft copies now, but hard copies will be available before
At the
launch.
launch, yes.
But even before. So you'll
autograph for us.
No, we want to receive there so that we can also get
Okay,
some
fine, no problem.
airtime.
Yeah.
Here.
But I wanted to. I thought Dibari, you are still going on. From Maura, it is me. And Maura, how come Maura now started speaking before me and he came last?
Who?
And
Maura?
But the
Yes.
procedure we are
No,
going
no, no,
to.
no.
You should speak last.
Just a
Alice,
moment.
sure.
Alice.
So it's me.
No. Just a moment.
Am I the
We
next?
gave you enough time. Even
Exactly.
that clip from Citizen.
So I'm the
right?
next.
Yeah, thank you very
Back
much.
to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we should be winding up.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I'm the next.
Is it you?
I want to
It
say
is-
this. I want to say this.
Let's give our closing remarks, Alice.
I
We'll
think
come
it
to you.
was-
I want to say this briefly, that whereas I support constitutional changes, including the introduction of Prime Minister, I must warn Kenyans against the lazy way of doing things. Let's not imagine when you bring a parliamentary system, it will be all rosy. We must interrogate what Maura is saying. Before you have a Prime Minister, Kenyans will want to know how you constitute electoral units in terms of constituency. Secondly, Kenyans will be apprehensive, given that our members of parliament, it has been alleged, are able to be bribed with as little as 3,000 in a toilet, and that all you might therefore need to bring a government down is perhaps 5 million, and the father. Anyang' Nyong'o, because you are the guru of this, and the father, knowing that parliamentary forms of government are prone to falling every time, Italy being the best example, and the rest of Japan and so on. Are we as a country prepared for that kind of thing? So the lazy option will be, let's move from presidential system to parliamentary system.
Thank you.
But there must be hard questions.
Thank you.
Before we do that.
All right. Closing remarks, Alice Wahome.
I think this is the point for me. First, the police must stop being used by political operatives or hands or or people with other interests from doing their work. They must stop listening and doing it the way it has been done before. They will get a bad name for nothing, and that route will not work. The other one is that I think changing the constitution at this particular time, if the constitution is not being changed in favor of the people, I don't think I would want to support. You have asked whether the deputy president is supporting BBI. I don't think we should be talking about BBI or Punguza Mzigo by name. I think we should be asking whether there is a constitutional moment to change the constitution and which areas of the constitution should be done and what is the route. The BBI for me is not the route, but I think there is room for Kenyans to speak together.
Thank you.
And agree on whether there is need and which areas and what questions should go to the referendum.
Right. Dr. Nyikal?
We need a third revolution in this country. The first one was to remove us from colonialism. The second one, to bring us in democracy. The third one is to create a nation, Kenya, through killing the notion of tribalism as a basis of our politics and resource distribution.
Thank you. Isaac?
I think by the end of the day, we need a better Kenya. And it is true that our political contests have not been resolved by elections. We need to ask ourselves why. The political disputes that are ethno-political are not being resolved. What is a problem? And finally, we must speak to the small man, the people of Mwihoko, these policemen who are harassing boda riders. Every time they get your boda, they ask for 3,000 shillings. It's not fair. Those people need to do business without being interfered with.
Thank you. Finally, Prof.
I think we need to give everybody airtime to express themselves about constitutional reform. And we should not prejudge what BBI is bringing. Let us say, let's wait until the results of the BBI is put on the table, rather than say dogmatically that BBI is not the route, because we don't know what contained in the report they're producing. I think that's rather intolerant, just to say that. We know what Punguza Mzigo is, because it's already on the table. We don't know what BBI is going to bring. Let's wait until it's put on the table.
Thank you.
The governors have said Ugatuzi, and we're working on Ugatuzi. We have given snippets of what it is going to contain. Let's wait until it's put on the table. And I think Manyora has said a very important thing. We should not just take parliamentary for the sake of it. Let us explain exactly how it is going to help avoid the problems of electoral intolerance in the past. Those are the kind of things we should move in that direction.
Thank you,
and
Prof.
not assess things dogmatically before we see them on the table.
Thank you. All right, thank you, our panelists this morning, for this engaging debate. We promised as well, next week we shall be looking at this book. If Diana may just put it up. This is a presidential or parliamentary democracy in Kenya. Remember, even that particular week, on Sunday or the next week after, it will be the International Day of Democracy, and this is a providential time that also Professor Anyang' Nyong'o will be launching this book. This will be happening at the University of Nairobi, and of course also you'll have a handy opportunity to meet some of these young Turks here. This is Dr. Mukisa Kitui, Gitobi Manyara, Yashpal Gai, Senator James Orengo, Joe Aguirre, and you mentioned also Paul Muite as well, right? So we look forward to, of course, the launch of this book. We shall be slicing and dicing it next week. So each of you have to go through the copy of that book, for we know it's a rich repository of knowledge as far as parliamentary and the presidential system is concerned. Thank you for your valued company. You've been watching This Is a Point here.